I just want to post a little video about my reaction to this podcast in regard from True Geordie. It's about the financial fair play. Okay, bear in mind, he's a Newcastle fan who claimed to be the richest club in the world. Okay, although if the fact is that the sovereign wealth fund of Abu Dhabi is larger than the sovereign wealth fund of Saudi Arabia. Google that, it's true. So the fact that Manchester City are not owned by a country, because they're owned by Sheikh Mansour himself, his private through his private investment company. Otherwise, Manchester City would be the richest.
We've got to do the FFP chat because that's been rumbling on social media lately, because obviously when Newcastle were bought out by the Saudis, the fans were celebrating, not only because we'd gotten rid of Mike Ashley, who'd spent no money for the last 20 fucking years, but also for the promised land, you know. Here's what happened to Chelsea, here's what happened to Man City, the oil money's here, boys, we're going to be getting Mbappe. Fast forward 2 years later, and our CEO does an interview saying, well, we are going to have to sell now if we want to buy a Solanke, for example. Like, we're really in a position now where FFP is restricting our spending. And I think that was a reality.
Just to be clear, Manchester City have had to sell, okay? And they have sold and made profits over the past 2 seasons, okay? By selling Jesus, Sterling, Zinchenko. Zinchenko bought for £1.5 million, sold for £40 million. Gabriel Jesus bought for I think it was £21 million, sold for £45 million. That's called taking the player, developing him, and then selling him for a profit. Yeah, that's called capitalism, my friend. Okay, Raheem Sterling, I think, sold for roughly the same price as what we bought him for. Yeah. So Man City have had to sell, to buy as well.
Check for a lot of Newcastle fans, but also the general Premier League of, this isn't what we thought it was going to be. They're not, and I'm not even saying I want us to go and buy an Mbappe and become the next Manchester City. I want a competitive league. Ironically, City.
So there is his first contradiction. He says he wants a competitive league, but he doesn't want Newcastle to buy Mbappe, which will make Newcastle more competitive. Buying Mbappe would make Newcastle more competitive, wouldn't it? So what does he want? Does he want a competitive league, or does he not want Newcastle to buy Mbappe? What is he talking about? You're contradicting yourself, my friend. Explain. Ridiculous.
Yeah, closing in on 5 titles in the last 6 years. I think the horse has bolted. But it really hit home of the rules have changed, and they've changed for us, and they've changed for everyone else who could be bought. It's not just about Newcastle.
They changed for Manchester City. They changed because of Manchester City. Yeah? That's why Manchester City are facing charges, because the financial fair play restrictions came into place from 2009. Or slightly thereafter. So it changed for Manchester City. So if Manchester City are found guilty of these charges, then they basically had to find loopholes and circumvent financial fair that restricted them from trying to compete with Manchester United and Barcelona, etc., etc., etc. So it was it was brought in to stop Manchester City and more teams like Manchester City, i.e. Newcastle United.
If Spurs or lower teams like what happened with Leicester City back in the day, or Blackburn back in the day, all that football is about is, if you haven't got the big club status, you're hoping for a new owner to come and change your fortunes. And now what we're saying is, that ain't going to work anymore. And it's clear as day, because Newcastle have now at a situation where we can't just do that. We've got a handful of really good players, and a vast majority of Steve Bruce players are still there, and half of the squad's injured. We are crying out for replacements. We started to...
Newcastle have a whole fan base of Newcastle, right? However many million people. I don't know what the population of Newcastle is, right? But I'm willing to bet they've got a massive fan base. Yeah? They could advertise in Saudi Arabia, okay? So they've got the potential to make sponsorship monies, okay? They've got the potential to do that. They're now in the Champions League. So they're now got more opportunities than, say, for example, an Aston Villa, who are not in the Champions League. So their revenues will go up again.
Academy players against Man City, for Christ's sake, and yet we're now unable to go and do anything. We're even struggling to loan Phillips from Man City because we're haggling over the fee. So for me, it's clear as day that FFP is not there for fairness. Like, fairness would be if everyone in the league could spend an equal amount on their squad. So whatever the biggest value team is in the league, well,
but everybody in the league can't that won't work for Crystal Palace, would it? Who will never who get in the Champions League, never ever. Might do on a one occasion. That's all very well, but there's still been an unfortunate monopoly of bigger teams that are bigger, and due to the fact that they've been in the Champions League over a period of time, will still have more money. So if you say everybody can spend £200 million per season over 2 transfer windows, right? Which is to match what the highest club, Man City or Man United, can spend. That doesn't help Newcastle. That doesn't help Crystal Palace, does it? Yeah? Doesn't help Newcastle. Because Man City will attract the better players anyway. Because they can pay the higher wages. And they can pay the... and they're in the Champions League. And they've got Pep Guardiola as manager.
you spend X amount of money, well, everyone can spend that then. And if people can't do that, then that's fair enough, but that should be the rule. We should all be allowed to spend the same amount of money if we want.
So if everybody can't do that, that would be fair enough. Yeah, it's not fair enough that Newcastle now can't do it because of restrictions put in place. It's now not a competitive league because everybody can't do that. But you're not happy with that, but it's fair enough if you implement your system into it.
And we can't. So what do we make of the situation, lads?
I think it's an interesting state of affairs when you look at it and you see that smaller clubs in the Premier League are being punished more than the bigger clubs. So you look at the way that Man City can still spend as opposed to the way that Newcastle can spend, and it's still unfair even when you look at it from that perspective.
Just to be clear, can we explain why that is? Just because some people might not understand. The rule is you can, I think, lose about £105 million as a club over the last 3 years. You know, and that's the rules. But it's all dependent on the money that is brought in from sponsorships, from the fans, from player sales and stuff like that. And if you can't prove that your club and not an owner pumping money into the club did that, then you're not able to then carry on, even though this has been going on for decades.
I think you've almost got to think of it on both sides. Like, do you want to have clubs that go out of business because they're run in a mismanaged and poor way? And that's the reason why FFP was brought in. Like, you look at the...
So they should put something in place that makes sure that an even better fit and proper persons test for the runners of the club. You know, and it should be made that if you put any money into the club, it has to be a gift. You cannot remove it later on, and you're solely responsible. They should probably do that on the club, okay? The piss poor owners is now the fact that there's financial fair play regulations in place isn't helping the clubs now, and the fact there wasn't financial fair play in place didn't help Aldershot or Accrington Stanley all them years ago because of just basically piss poor ownership. You know, poor people with nefarious motives taking money out of the club, okay? But the fact is also financial fair play. You get fined for financial fair play because they put a system in place that doesn't want clubs to overspend and therefore possibly go out of business. So what's the punishment? A fine and possible relegation, which will result in more financial more financial hardships being put on them and possible relegation. So you're not receiving the money you're getting in the Premier League. So it makes no logical sense, the whole financial fair play, which I've been saying anyway. I've been saying this thing. I said as soon as Newcastle got taken over, and they're all going, yeah, we're going to win everything now. We're going to win everything now. No, financial fair play will restrict you from doing so. Okay.
Reading at the moment, they're a football club that are in real trouble. A former Premier League team now that are right, in the Championship and struggling. And you don't want that to happen again. So you can understand why FFP was brought in, because you want to protect clubs so that they're not ripped away from fans. We don't have another Bury situation, another.
Yeah, financial fair play is being brought in, and there's still more clubs than ever failing financial fair play. I'm not sure of this, and anybody can check it out for me. But have a look at, prior to financial fair play, how many clubs went out of business into liquidation. A lot, or less. I don't know.
Clubs, right? But then you can understand it from a Newcastle fan perspective, and you go, right, Man City and Chelsea have had these illustrious, phoenix rises from nothing, and that they've bought all of these amazing players and been able to basically build clubs from scratch. That's never going to happen again. That will never happen again because of the way.
Let's have a go through. Okay, Man City, never spent more than market value on any of the players. Never, right? Vincent Kompany, £8.5 million. Pablo Zabaleta, it was £12.5 million, okay? These were the players that started it all off, okay? Sergio Aguero, £35 million, at a time where Liverpool had spent, 50 million on Carroll? Was it 50 million they spent on Carroll? They sold Terres prior to that. Other players signed prior to that for big money. City paid what was market value for a player of that calibre at the time, based on transfers already put in place, precedents already put in place by the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona and Manchester United and Liverpool when they're selling Coutinho. They're happy to receive that money and inflate the market, but they're not happy when somebody else comes in and that market negatively impacts them by other teams paying more that they then can't pay.
The football rule set is being brought in now.
But with Chelsea, for example, they had money pumped into them, and the idea that Chelsea would then, in any way suffer when all Abramovich has done is now left them in the best position possible, where in the last year they've been able to spend over $1 billion and not have a problem.
How dare he? How dare he get his business and leave it in the best possible place? If the money, we're talking about Saudi Arabia here, we're talking about him wanting to spend Saudi Arabian money here, whereas from people who shove gay people off the top of buildings for being homosexual, who have a piss poor human rights record. Okay, so if you want to talk about how the money was gained, if it was gained through moral reasons, then start looking at Newcastle United, my friend. But Abramovich, you could probably argue, has gained the money immorally. You could probably argue Abu Dhabi have, right? But the bottom line is, spending money and making your club better and making your business better because you're trying to compete with Manchester United, who have been outspending everybody prior to that, is called business, capitalism. Yeah?
Because their entire club has so much value added to it.
Yeah.
So to compare that to a Reading is absolute insanity. It's like it's a blanket rule that serves the powerful only to stop another Blackburn, another Leicester, another Man City, another Chelsea, all of these clubs that have happened.
The caveat that I will say back to that, though, is that Chelsea, the reason why we have been able to spend so much is because we've sold a lot of players and because we have
Why did you have those players?
Yeah,
Exactly.
No, they've sold a lot of players, right? Because they've been cunning. They found a loophole in the system that allows them to spread their, I'm talking about this current period at the moment where they've been allowed to spread the money over 8-10 years of a contract, okay? And then ironically, Chelsea then vote for that to be outlawed for everybody else. They were part of the vote that's outlawed now, but no teams can now do that. I think they've reduced it to 5 or 6 years. I can't make an exact number. And Chelsea voted for that rule to be implemented. So they take advantage of that rule and then vote for it, so nobody else can then do it. So taking advantage of loopholes, coming and being cunning and cunning and say, oh, there's a loophole there we can take hold of. That's called being smart. That's what entrepreneurs do. Okay, that's what everybody does when it comes to, finding a good accountant to help them pay less tax. It's called finding loopholes. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we had the players.
End of story.
We had the players, but then also we have more commercial income than you. We had
Why
more.
do you have that? Because of all the money that's been spent on the players over years to win all these trophies, to then increase the value of the club.
It's hardly Chelsea's fault, and it's hardly Man City's fault that you were happy to accept an owner or Mike Ashley who turned out to be shit. Yeah, it's not our fault. You could quite easily have had the same owner as Brighton. Yeah. Brighton, who were competing higher at the thingy and are happy doing that. It's not our fault you had shit owners, mate, is it? Yeah. We had shit owners prior to Sheikh Mansour. His name was Thaksin Shinawatra. Yeah. And we had to sell the club because we were going to go into liquidation.
That's exactly right.
It's chicken and egg. You're 100% right. It's chicken and egg. I think that the problem is you have to look at the situation and go, there's one part where I agree with you, Josh, where I go, Chelsea shouldn't have ever been allowed to do that. But you can't say we're not going to do rules and regulations against Newcastle because we didn't do it against Chelsea. Yeah, because it's like going, well, you didn't stop that house from burning down, so why are you stopping this one from burning down? It's like, I think what you need to do, and as football fans, when we look at this stuff, you have to get rid of your club allegiances, look at the actual problem with spending in the Premier League. And for me, it's twofold. One, it's what you said, don't let another Bury happen. Don't let small clubs get destroyed by reckless owners.
Who's responsible for this? The formation of the Premier League, the Football Association, all the big clubs who wanted to break away from the Football League in order to get a Premier League for more money. Okay, there was a rule, right, that prevented clubs and owners from being able to make a dividend from clubs. Okay, read the book The Beautiful Game by David Conn. He outlines it. Okay, wonderful book, and he talks about how this rule stopped owners from being able to make a dividend in. So as soon as that was circumvented by, I think it was Irving Scholar of Spurs, where he learned to use a loophole of separating the business side of the football club. When the football club Tottenham Hotspur PLC and floating it on stock exchange, that's when you start then getting investors in. And when you start getting investors in, you start getting billionaires in. When the Premier League then becomes a bigger and bigger product, more money comes in. That's how it works. As something prospers, you spend more. Okay, so if you want, you can have it how you want. You can't have it both ways. They wanted the Premier League. It means it's got more prosperous, more people want to invest in it, more players want to play in it, which means wages go up, which means TV revenues go up because it becomes and teams pay more money. It's as simple as that. And you can't. Man City wanting to compete within that system, like Chelsea did, because Man United were running away with it. How's that their fault?
Shackle them with debt that they're never going to overcome. But the other problem, we mentioned it earlier, City are probably going to win their 6 in 7 titles?
5th out of 6.
Not
Yeah.
And it's just going to happen again. And this is while financial fair play is in place. This
But
is
the only
while-
reason this is a problem that's been there from day one. Manchester United were Manchester City. Man United could not be competed with until.
Ironically, nobody gave two shites about Man City prior to Sheikh Mansour possibly going into liquidation. Stuart Pearce actually said Manchester City had to sell their club, having to sell their club shop, having to get loans from a previous chairman in order to pay the groundsman to cut the grass. Nobody gave two shites. And they expect Manchester to go, well, we can't compete with everybody else. We can't compete with Liverpool. We can't compete with Arsenal. We can't compete with Manchester United. So, hey, let's just die and go into oblivion. Instead, what they did, they found the best solution for them. They went out and they found an owner that was buyer Amanda Staveley. Yeah, Amanda Staveley, the person that's found your owner of Newcastle. That was Abu Dhabi United Group. I mean, you have to do what you best to survive in the market you're thinking in, and to want to compete. And you're saying that Man City shouldn't want to compete and want to do the best. That's not their fault. They're ridiculous arguments.
Clubs had money pumped into them. This is not a new problem. We're just having the same problem 20 years later.
But we haven't tackled it. This is the problem. And whatever they're doing and whatever's happening at the moment, it's not working. Because it's like, as a Newcastle fan, you're sat there going, fuck me, I'm having to watch Sean Longstaff run around on a pitch because we can't even loan Calvin Phillips. It's like, yeah, but like none of us as neutrals are going, someone needs to fucking slow Newcastle down. None of us care about that.
I think there's a lot of people who are fearful of what Newcastle could become if it was completely no rules. And I'm not...
If it was Manchester City buying Robinho all over.
If there was completely no rules, Manchester United would be able to spend as much as they want. There's only so many players you can buy. You know? Man United are a perfect example of spending loads of money and not necessarily being successful over the past few years, aren't they? Yeah? So spending money doesn't guarantee success, as Manchester United so very much show, okay? But the point is, if there were no rules, then the fact that Newcastle could spend 200 million in one summer, well, Man City could spend 200 million in one summer as well. So can Liverpool. There's nothing to stop them from going to a bank and saying, this is our predicted future revenue. We predict we'll finish second, first in the Premier League, which guarantees us £190 million a year. Plus, we guaranteed this revenue from sponsorship. Plus, we guaranteed this revenue from Champions League, going to a bank and getting a loan based on them and paying it back, inflating that summer's transfer. Yeah, because if they're guaranteed practically every time to finish with them spots.
I'm not suggesting that we do that, but when Manchester City are in 5...
There's also nothing stopping Newcastle from doing that.
Titles out of 6 years, and the one title they lost where they were like 2 points behind or whatever, that is not a competitive league. The idea that Newcastle, like unfortunately the system that we have because of the way it's been, is the only way to kill off some of the other sharks is to...
Was it a competitive league prior to financial fair play? Man United winning it most of the time? Was it? Did you call that competitive league? Well, I wouldn't call that a competitive league, would you? You know?
More shocks and just let it go that way, because the horse has bolted. The idea of putting rules and regulations in at this point, when we've got a one-team league, which is competitive to a degree, but the inevitability of City winning titles is a joke.
So it sounds like we've almost got to propose your proposal, which is almost like, right, if you've got these oil state run clubs that have run away with things and no one can catch them,
too late.
The best thing to do is to just let other oil state run clubs run with them and catch them.
No, that I would definitely put my own words on this. So I think that there needs to still be rules and regulations, but to come to a point where Newcastle have spent 400, people are saying, some of the stupid arguments I've been getting online of, you spend 400 million. Yes, we spent 400 million after spending nothing for decades. So we still have a squad that was battling relegation that is like 75% of our squad.
Brighton, okay, over the past three seasons have been more competitive than Newcastle, having spent a lot less than that. So it's due to the fact you've not bought as good a players, isn't it? Or your manager's been shit. You've recruited bad people. Yeah? Leicester won the Premier League spending less money. Well, Leicester won the Premier League spending less money. So you should be able to spend 400 million, and if you're like Leicester, who spent less, win the league. If you buy the right player and have the right manager in, and you have a little bit of luck.
So you put rules and regulations on us so that we can't even buy a Solanke or a Phillips, or do you know, like reasonable signings?
I mean,
you should be able to make.
You could buy those players if you sold some of your higher performing.
Thank you. So this is the insanity of it, is we've only just started growing as a club, and we're already being told. And this is the beauty of how you know it's to protect the big clubs. What you've just said: sell Isak, sell Bruno Guimaraes. Who do we sell them to? the big clubs.
Yeah.
So it keeps them strong. Thank you very much. That's the problem with it. Newcastle should not be in a position where we have to sell to who would buy them? Manchester City and all of these huge clubs in the world. So
Sell them abroad.
come
They
on,
can't afford them.
Barcelona, Real Madrid.
Man City went out that season, needed a centre-half. They bought Manuel Akanji for something like £14 million. They bought Julian Alvarez for £24 million. That's improved their team. And now gone on to become a World Cup winner. Having sold Jesus for 45. You know, they're going on as if Man City just gone out spending wads of cash here, left, right and centre. It's not true. Okay? It's not true.
And buy
They can't
all-
afford
They
it.
can't
Real
afford
Madrid
it.
cats.
No. But let's have a
Yeah,
counter to
true,
this,
yeah.
though. All the big clubs are selling clubs now. Man City have just sold their best up-and-coming prospect in Cole
That is
Palmer.
not the same thing.
They-
That is one tiny little speck in a galaxy of stars that they have. So much so that no one's even pointing the finger at Pep Guardiola because he was some little kid out of an academy. What you're talking
They sold copious amounts of players from the football academy. Man City went out, right, and as a club, and nothing stopped Newcastle from doing this, become a City football group, which enables them to scout players from all over the country, all over the world, play them in the other clubs that win this thing, or loan them out, and then sell them on later. You know, there's loads of players I can go through the list of them, okay, and Cole Palmer. We've invested in our academy, okay, for money, which at the time, investment in infrastructure was allowed as part of financial fair play. It wasn't included. If all the money that Manchester City put into the academy and all that area, okay, was not included in financial fair play. Yeah. That 200 million and all the arena and all the money putting in now and improving the state is not included in the financial fair play.
about selling our best Isak or best midfielder in Gimmerish. It's absolutely outrageous that is being put to us as a reasonable thing when we have owners who could fund Newcastle for the next 1,000 years, and we're talking about whether or not we could one day go out of business. Don't make me laugh.
Whether this
Bullshit.
was your expectation or not, I think it was the expectation of many that Newcastle were going to become the Man City on steroids. They were going to become do you think that's not that you would expect it, but a lot of people did, because we looked at the wealth charts. We looked at the wealth charts, and it was what your owners were 3 times.
He just wants to compete. Again, he says, I just want to compete. And I don't want us to buy Mbappe. Why? Because people have been doing exactly the same to you as what they've done to Man City. Yeah, you will then realise, I'm a fucking hypocrite. I want to compete. How do you compete? By buying the best players in a transfer market that was inflated long before Man City come along. When Chelsea were paying £30 million for Andrei Shevchenko. Man United were paying all the money they were paying for Andy Cole, Rio Ferdinand. Yeah, 30 million for a centre half in 2001. Yeah, the market was already inflated, my friend.
Wealthier, the Man Cities or something like that, right? Do you think that ship has now sailed? Do you think
Absolutely
we're looking at this and going, oh, no, actually, it's just going to be the way that, say, for example, when we look, sometimes we're surprised when we look at the wealth of owners. We go, God, Villa's owners have got a lot of money.
Do you really
and
think Manchester City have got 17 million followers on Twitter and they're that big? Of course not, man. Everything about that club has been inflated from day one. And they
So let's have a look at that. Bear with me.
and their lawyers are so...
So I've just got up Twitter. Manchester City, 17.3 million followers. I suppose they've just magically made them appear out of nowhere, have they? I suppose they're giving Elon Musk a bit of backhand here, add some extra followers on for us. It's easy. This is easy stuff to look at. If you just get your phone out that's in front of him and put him on X, Manchester City, 17.3 million followers. That's called fact-checking, my friend, okay? It's not rocket science.
Good that will probably never get these 150 charged. And this isn't about me hating Man City. It's about fairness. Fair play is not what we fucking got here. And I don't know if there's an easy one-size-fits-all answer to it. But the first thing I thought of was, whatever the roundabout club value that people have spent on their players, Manchester United have spent $1 billion, City have spent $1 billion. Let's look at how much Liverpool have spent. Whatever the cap is of player value in a squad, City, Chelsea are on $1 billion. That should be the limit that anyone can spend, so that we all have a level playing field, that no one can go beyond whatever that is, and you adjust it to inflation. So therefore, we're all the same.
Can I ask a question as someone who's not good with numbers? Are they basically saying that the FFP is there to protect yourself from spending more money than you have and then putting
Yes.
Okay, so, right, let's say, for example, if these owners have got so much wealth, could you not still implement FFP in a way that the smaller clubs are protected by that logic? But say, for example, Newcastle want to go and spend $40 million on a player. The league then says to them, or whoever runs FFP says to them, that's fine, you can put $40 million down for him, but you've then got to put $40 million aside in a I don't know, bank account or something there, so that we know that you've got enough to bail yourself out.
He's now talking about socialism, running football like socialism. And again, I refer you back to that book, The Beautiful Game by David Conn, okay? And he talked about how prior to the Premier League, the Hillsborough disaster, football was run in that sort of system where you share the wealth down through all the thingy. But it was a shithole. The stadiums were shitholes, the pitches were shitholes, they didn't want to spend any money, the safety of the grounds was shitholes. Yeah? Since that, and money has been coming into the football, it's prospered. The grounds are safer than they've ever been. The quality of the football is better than it's ever been. You know, sports science in the football is better than it's ever been. You know, you're talking about socialism, and it doesn't work.
That money, you're almost lending yourself money.
There's a million solutions to this. Having a one-size-fits-all for small, tiny clubs that are really going to struggle potentially down the road, and the way that Blackburn did or whatever, that you've got to have different rules for different issues. What this does, essentially, is if we imagine that there's a mini league in the top six big.
You notice how none of them are mentioning Everton in this? Everton, who are one of the least successful clubs for the past 20 years, who are having financial fair play things against them. Okay, so obviously been circumventing the rules of financial fair play in order to have things against them. Nobody gives a shit about them because they're not winning everything. Yeah, they're not a threat to their chances of winning anything. Yeah. Nobody's mentioned Everton. They might do later on in the video, but I don't think nobody's mentioned Everton. Yeah, because they don't care about Everton. They don't care when the clubs are going down or struggling unless it's their team.
Financially, it means that it's very hard for them to drop out. Yes, these clubs might drop out a little bit of the top six in terms of their football, but roughly they're always going to be able to outspend everyone around them, which then makes it impossible. Let's say the guy was going to buy Manchester United, the Sheikh.
Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Morrison's can all outspend smaller shops. It's called capitalist business because they've grown over time. Yeah, I'm not saying there's no bit of dodgy dealings happening here and there and everywhere, but the bottom line is that's the world we live in. Yeah, there's always going to be bigger clubs. There's always going to be clubs that have more fans and generate more fans and generate more money. It's always going to be like that. Yeah, and it always has been like that. Yeah.
He goes and buys a really small club. Why would he now? Because he can't have fun with it. And these are billionaire toys, and they've been that way for years, right?
But doesn't this also mean that they just need to come up with creative ways to raise funds as well through sponsorships and different...
Newcastle have got...
Tell that to Wrexham. Yeah, tell that to Wrexham. They're not billionaires. But he's gone, oh, we have a name, Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhaney, we're popular, we have a large following, we can use that to generate income via a documentary, via which will engage in sponsorships. Yeah, Newcastle, exactly the same. Yeah, Wrexham. Anybody could have done it. Any club can go out and find their equivalent to Ryan Reynolds, or this, that, the other. If you choose however you make bad choices, you get bad negative outcomes. You chose Mike Ashley, and you were happy with Mike Ashley, you got negative outcomes from it. It's as simple as that.
the best of the best of the best right now. We're getting as creative as we can, and it's come down to what we're going to do. Because
but even like the stadium and things like that, and
that what that does is it moves it as a snail's pace, and that's exactly what is wanted. They don't want us going through the gears. And I understand that this might sound like sour grapes, but I'll be honest, I want to fucking see my team win a trophy once in my bastard life. And I had a little bit of a hope that at least we might be certain to see something happen. And now I'm looking at it going,
and yet Leicester won a trophy. You know, in the past years, I've seen Birmingham City win the league before Newcastle, win the trophy before Newcastle have. I've seen Bournemouth or Port Pompey, despite being have won a trophy before Newcastle have. All on less money. All on less money. Numerous other occasions where you can see who's won won trophies. Smaller clubs have won trophies in the past 20 years when Newcastle haven't come close, okay? Despite having less money.
We can't even buy Solanke. I want a fair league. I want a competitive league. I don't want a Man City situation. I want entertaining football. As much as it would be nice to win Newcastle.
You don't want a Man City situation. So you want owners that can spend as much money as you want in order to compete, but you don't want a Man City situation. So basically you don't want the owners then. You want to go back to Mike Ashley.
6 titles in a row, it would feel soulless at that point. I want competitive.
I think our league is still more competitive than most of the leagues in Europe, though. It's more competitive than France, Germany.
I don't know, man.
Bro. What do you mean?
No, this is.
Sorry. How many leagues have?
In the 80s, right? Liverpool dominated. They won the majority of the titles. In the 90s, Manchester United dominated. They won the majority of the titles. In the 2000s, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea won the majority of the titles. And now Man City are winning the majority of the titles. All of a sudden, whoa, it's less competitive. It's less competitive all of a sudden. It's not been competitive because they've always had bigger clubs spending more money because they're bigger clubs. It's unfortunately Newcastle weren't able to win any trophies in that time. They come close, but Kevin Keegan had no tactics and they bottled it. They were 12 points clear and they bottled it. That's the true reality of it. He's not going to admit that Newcastle were having bought Ferdinand, having bought Faustino Asprilla, having spent loads of money, yeah, because Keegan could only operate with spending money. Having done all that, still couldn't win the league, yeah. Bottled it.
PSG won in a row in the last few years.
If that's the yardstick,
how many have Bayern Munich won?
Bro, but the point is they've had such an advantage for so long. They've built up so much value. So now they can sell a Cole Palmer and make absolute profit.
How dare they? Oh, how dare you try and compete against all these top teams, Man City. Stay where you belong. Going into liquidation because you made a bad choice and got a bad owner called Thaksin Shinawatra whose assets were frozen in Thailand. How dare you try and go and better yourself and go, oh, Man United are spending loads of money. Liverpool are spending loads of money. They're in the Champions League every year. We want to get there. Oh, not allowed. Not allowed. Yeah? Now, if they are found guilty, Man City, of these financial fair play, we've got to accept it, yeah? You accept it, you go, oh shit, horrible, we've got to accept it. But the bottom line is, don't fucking be criticising them for wanting to be better, yeah? Because you're arguing exactly the same. That's why you're wanking your cock off, jizzing everywhere, because Saudi Arabia bought you. The country with absolutely no morals who murder journalists for talking out against them. This is the same person you've got sat in your stand every day cheering you on. Murdered journalists. Yeah?
Because now the door's shut, City are almost cemented at the top. It's going to be really hard for anyone to ever catch them.
Are you just unfortunate of being the next one in line?
The ladder's been pulled up on us.
This falls on. Like, maybe there'll be 2-3 more clubs within the next half a decade that are feeling exactly the same as you, but it's just such a harsh pill to swallow.
That. And even if now, I've been saying this for a long time, like, it isn't just because Newcastle have been bought now. The only way to beat the shark in the tank is to introduce more sharks in the tank.
Yeah.
Having Man City is the only one with the biggest teeth like that, it makes it impossible for anyone to challenge the Apex.
It's not just the biggest teeth. The thing that pisses me off the most with this discussion is, like, we all know they've got 117 charges against them because they're not even announcing what's actually happening. Yeah. Do you really think that Erling Haaland went there?
Do your fucking research, mate. Because of the amount of charges that they've got against him, it's going to take a long time to go through it all and prove it. But also, the charges were based on files that were stolen by a hacker who's now in prison for fraud. So it takes a high percentage of proof needed to prove these, okay? You know? So that's why it's taking a long time.
For £65 million. Do you believe that?
Jurgen Klopp had to perform out of his skin for the best part of a decade to get one title. And I refused.
Jurgen Klopp, right? Let's speak about Jurgen Klopp now. Highest paid amount for goalkeeper, Alisson, that helped them push them over the line. Virgil van Dijk, £75 million. Now, you watch the Amazon documentary on Manchester City, yeah? And you'll hear our owners say, we're not paying that price for Virgil van Dijk. It's ridiculous. We're not going to go that. Liverpool paid it. Helped them win the league. You know? Don't be coming here saying Liverpool haven't spent copious amount of money to win the league. They have. Okay? And the past 3 or 4 years, Manchester City have spent less money. They bought players for Alvarez. They bought players like Zinchenko and sold him at a bargain as before. Julian Alvarez. Matteo Kovacic now for £25 million. Manuel Akanji last season. The guy at left back. Sergio Gomez. Bought cheap. You know, we had no left back, so we stuck Fabian Delph at left back. Yeah. We refused to go for Koulibaly, and we said we'll leave it, and we went for Ruben Diaz instead. Yeah. Absolutely utter nonsense. Okay. Absolutely utter nonsense.
Believe that if they were on a level playing field financially, that would have been the case. And if the rule that I'm theorizing that could help is that if Pep Guardiola had to have a squad value that is equal to Jurgen Klopp as a maximum, like no one squad can have more than this.
We spent less than most teams last season. Okay, we won the treble last season. Yeah, having spent less. Okay, by selling players that we bought, yeah, that for not less than market value, for reasonable market value at the time. We bought them. You turned them into better players. Sterling for one, Gabriel Jesus one, an unknown, never heard of him. Zinchenko, never heard of him prior. You know, loads of other players. They've sold late Lavia. They're going to make money from that, from the academy, or from buying the right players, coaching them, and then selling them on for profit, which is what you're supposed to do if you're a fucking business. It really isn't rocket science.
Second squad, for example, so that Newcastle would not be able to outspend Man City, or they can't be. You can't have one squad that's out and out like Bayern Munich, the most valuable squad. That would then force a level playing field to some.
You need to compete in every competition. All the amount of games you've got playing now, you need a minimum of 2 international players for every position in order to compete at the top, and that's a precedent that's been set for years. Okay, yeah. So in order to do that, you've got to pay what the market price is. Yeah, and on most of the times, Manchester City have paid the market price or refused to go over that. Okay, Alexis Sanchez, Fred, Harry Maguire refused to go over the prices that the clubs wanted. We're not paying that price for Declan Rice. We made a bid for Declan Rice. Arsenal bid more. We're not paying more than that. Yeah, we're ruining football. Yeah, so. At the end of the day, you need 2 players for every position. If the market price, the average market price for a striker is 50 million set by somebody else, then you've got to pay roughly about that. That's what the other team. That's what a president is. Yeah. So when Rio Ferdinand was sold in 2001 for £30 million to Manchester United, any other club then selling Julian Lescott are going to be asking roughly about that same price, 22 million, which is what Man City paid for, because Julian Lescott is not quite as good as Rio Ferdinand, but they value it roughly about that. That's what a present is. So Man City have had to pay the same market value as everybody else, and on numerous occasions they've refused to go over that.
At least what we've got now, for people going, oh, it's working, bro. They've just sold Cole Palmer just for cash in the bank because they've got an embarrassment of riches. Like, what were we talking about that this is working?
But they've sold.
That's how marketing. That's how capitalism works. You get a player from your academy, you turn him into a better player, you coach him, then you sell him for profit. How dare they? How dare they do that? How dare you dare sell them money for more money? You know, be better than us. Because anybody can do that. Anybody can do that. Go out, coach, find the players, coach them, sell them, blah, blah, blah. You've had Newcastle now have players that have played in the Champions League, which will increase their market value. Sell them, make a profit from them.
They've sold Jesus, they've sold Mahrez.
Yeah.
They've sold other players.
They've sold them with
what Brian's saying is,
when they've used them up now. They've finished with them.
What Brian's saying is they're only selling them because they were able to buy them in the first place. This is the problem. Is you go, oh God, Jacob's got loads of money. He keeps selling those luxury cars.
The greengrocer only made a profit on his tomatoes because he was able to buy them in the first place. Yeah. It's called free market capitalism, my friend. That's how it works. You buy a player, you win, you're successful, you make him better, you sell him. It's just, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's like, yeah, because I fucking nicked him in the first place. It's like, that's what's wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's like, the other thing that you have to think about with City as well is we spoke about Cole Palmer a couple of times here. Why have they got Cole Palmer? Why have they got him? And why have they got that academy? Because they've got the best academy in fucking Europe.
Into their club,
exactly.
Man. Newcastle can't.
And they put billions into a poor area of Manchester that was derelict, that was left by Thatcher to rot. Okay, so Sheikh Mansour comes along, invests millions and millions into that area, giving jobs to people, increasing the value of property in that area. Oh, fucking scumbag! What a scumbag! The laws in regards to putting money into infrastructure does not account against financial fair play, unless they've changed that recently. Okay. So an owner can put as much as money into infrastructure as he wants, which is why they're building around a stadium. Which is why, okay.
Even upgrade the fucking training ground.
Exactly.
It's a joke, man.
This is why it's so hard to judge cities, because it's like it's not just
financial fair play is not stopping Newcastle from improving the training ground. It's not doing it. Yeah. Fortunately for Man City, right near the stadium, there's loads of derelict ground there able to buy. Okay. Nothing's stopping them from doing it.
Spending money on transfers. Speak to anyone who knows stuff about Manchester United. They're saying there's nothing coming through the academy because all the kids that we used to get coming through the United academy, they're going to City instead now because of the facility.
And when people are looking at Newcastle and going, you're only saying that because you want Newcastle to win, I'm like, yes.
And prior to that, when they were only going to Manchester United because of the facilities, that was fine. For 3 decades prior to that, where Ryan Giggs was playing at Man City and Fergie coming out, well, have you? Hey, bye-bye. That was fine. Apparently. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Get what you're saying, but would you not at least rather have another challenger at the Man City who can actually compete with them on a financial level? Because right now, it's up to them what the fuck they do. And everyone else is dancing to their tune. Yeah.
Go through the past 3 transfer windows and how much Man City spent, in particular last season. Yeah? And I've told you all the players that have gone. Vincent Kompany, Pablo Zappaleta, the people that started it off. David Silva was £24 million. £24 million in a time when Liverpool had paid something similar for Jordan fucking Henderson. Yeah? You know? You look at other players in comparison, they paid big money, £24 million for David Silva. You know? For football market value, that was cheap. For 50 cats, Spanish international. Yeah? Yeah, Torre won the Champions League, 24 million quid. Something around about that. Cheap.
But let's be real though. Are like Burnley fans, Nottingham Forest fans, are they even speaking about this though, are they?
This is definitely a Newcastle problem right now, but the point is it's a future problem for any club that gets bought out by a very rich person who then wants to see their club have that moment. Think again, bro.
So, there you go. Absolute utter bitterness, utter nonsense by all these fans here that just absolutely talk gibberish. Expect Manchester City not to compete, not to try and find loopholes like every other club has been doing, like every business does. If there's loopholes, let's try and find it. If you get caught, shit, I've got caught. Hold your hands up, yeah? Yeah. The bottom line is Manchester City now have got more academy players in their squad, yeah, because now it's starting to bear fruit and they've made money from them academy players. The best owners, the best value for money in world football. Okay. Nobody's going to apologise for wanting to compete in a market that was already saturated by Manchester United overspending and breaking British transfer records, by Blackburn Rovers, by Chelsea, etc, etc, etc. Cheers, guys. Take care. Like, subscribe, comment. Love you all.